Hello, and welcome to Podcast for English. My name is Linda. I'm really happy you're here today. This channel is for people who want to learn English in a simple and natural way. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to speak fast. You don't need to understand every word. You only need to listen. You can listen while you rest. You can listen while you work. You can listen while you live your daily life. Take a deep breath, relax your body, clear your mind. Now, let's begin today's English lesson together. In today's podcast, we are talking about something very simple but very important for beginners. Today's topic is this: listening is enough for beginners. Many people start learning English and feel confused. They feel they must speak quickly. They feel they must remember many words. They feel they must study grammar right away. These feelings create pressure. Pressure makes learning harder, especially at the beginning. But beginners do not need to do everything. Beginners do not need to speak well. Beginners do not need to understand everything. At the beginning, listening is enough. Listening allows the brain to get used to English. It allows the brain to hear the sounds. It allows the brain to notice rhythm and tone. This stage is natural. This is how language learning starts. When you listen, you are not being passive. You are building a foundation. You are preparing the brain for understanding later. Many learners worry when they only listen. They think they are not learning. They think they should be doing more. This podcast is here to calm that worry. Listening is not a weak activity. It is a powerful one. In this episode, we will talk about why listening alone is enough at the beginning. We will talk about how listening helps the brain learn safely. And we will talk about why speaking too early can create stress. If you are new to English, if you feel nervous about speaking, if you feel overwhelmed by studying, this episode is for you. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force yourself. You only need to listen. And listening is already learning. The brain needs listening before speaking because listening builds understanding first. When you listen, the brain is not silent. It is working quietly in the background. It is collecting sounds, patterns, and meanings. At the beginning, the brain does not know how English works. It needs time to hear the language many times. It needs time to notice how words connect. Listening gives the brain this time. When you listen often, the brain starts to recognize familiar sounds. Some words begin to feel known, even if you cannot explain them. This feeling of familiarity is important. Familiarity tells the brain that English is safe. When something feels safe, the brain opens. An open brain learns more easily. Speaking too early can confuse the brain. When you try to speak before enough listening, the brain feels pressure. It tries to produce language without having enough input. This pressure can create stress. Stress blocks learning. Stress makes English feel difficult and uncomfortable. Listening removes this pressure. When you only listen, there is no demand to perform. You do not need to be correct. You do not need to respond quickly. You simply receive the language. This receiving stage is how children learn their first language. They listen for a long time before they speak. Their brain builds a strong foundation through listening. Adults learn in a similar way. The brain still needs input before output. Listening comes before speaking. Another reason listening is important is rhythm. English has a natural rhythm and flow. Listening helps the brain feel this rhythm. When you later speak, this rhythm supports you. You are not building sentences from rules. You are following patterns you have heard many times. Listening also helps with pronunciation. The brain learns sounds by hearing them repeatedly. Trying to speak without enough listening often leads to tension and frustration. Listening creates ease. Ease creates confidence. When the brain has listened enough, speaking begins naturally, not perfectly, but more comfortably. This is why listening first is not a delay. It is preparation. And for beginners, this preparation is enough. Many beginners believe that listening only works when they understand everything. This belief creates pressure. It makes listening feel like a test. And tests make beginners nervous. But understanding is not required for listening to work. When you listen to English, the brain is not trying to translate every word. It is trying to get used to the sound. It is learning how English feels. Even when you do not understand the meaning, the brain is still learning. It is learning where sentences start and end. It is learning which sounds often appear together. This learning happens naturally. You do not need to control it. You do not need to force it. Think about music. You can enjoy a song even if you do not understand the lyrics. Your brain still remembers the melody. It still recognizes the rhythm. Language works in a similar way. At the beginning, the brain learns English as sound and pattern. Meaning comes later. Speaking comes even later. This order is normal. Many beginners stop listening because they feel lost. They think listening without understanding is useless. But this is not true. Listening without understanding trains the brain to stay calm. It teaches the brain that English is not dangerous. It reduces fear. Fear blocks learning. Calm allows learning. When you allow yourself to listen without understanding, you remove pressure. You stop asking the brain to perform. You allow it to observe. Observation is powerful. Over time, some words begin to stand out. You hear them again and again. Slowly, they start to carry meaning. This meaning appears naturally, not because you forced it, but because the brain was ready. Understanding grows quietly from repeated listening. It does not need effort to begin. It only needs time and exposure. So when you listen and feel confused, that is okay. Confusion does not mean failure. It means the process is working. For beginners, listening without understanding is not a problem. It is the foundation. And a strong foundation makes everything easier later. Listening builds confidence in a quiet and gentle way. Many beginners feel pressure when they try to speak too early. They worry about making mistakes. They worry about pronunciation. They worry about being judged. This pressure creates fear. Fear blocks confidence. Listening removes this pressure. When you listen, there is no expectation to respond. You are not being tested. You are not performing. This safety allows the brain to relax. A relaxed brain learns more easily. Each time you listen and nothing bad happens, confidence grows quietly. You may not notice it at first, but the feeling changes over time. English starts to feel less threatening. You hear it without panic. You stay calm longer. This calm is a form of confidence. Listening also builds confidence through familiarity. When you hear the same sounds and words many times, they stop feeling strange. They start to feel normal. Normal things do not create fear. They create comfort. Comfort supports confidence. Another important point is control. Listening allows you to control the pace. You can pause. You can repeat. Having control reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety increases confidence. Listening also gives you time. Time to get used to English. Time to adjust emotionally. Confidence does not come from forcing yourself to speak. It comes from feeling safe enough to try. Listening creates this safety. Over time, you may notice that speaking feels less scary, not because you practice speaking, but because listening prepared you emotionally. When you finally speak, confidence is already there, not perfect, but steady. This is why listening is powerful for beginners. It builds confidence without pressure, and confidence makes learning possible. For beginners, listening every day is more important than studying rules. Many learners start English by opening grammar books. They try to understand rules. They try to remember structures. Very quickly, they feel tired and confused. Rules are abstract. They require effort. They require attention and memory. For beginners, this effort often creates stress. Listening works in a different way. When you listen daily, even for a short time, English becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Reduced fear makes learning easier. Listening daily does not require deep focus. You do not need to analyze. You do not need to understand everything. You simply let English pass through your ears. This daily exposure teaches the brain naturally. It learns how sentences sound. It learns which words often appear together. This kind of learning is automatic. You are not forcing it, you are allowing it. Studying rules too early can interrupt this process. Rules make beginners overthink. Overthinking creates tension. When learners focus too much on rules, they often stop listening naturally. They listen to check correctness. They listen to judge themselves. This removes enjoyment. And when enjoyment disappears, consistency disappears. Listening daily keeps English light. It fits into daily life. It does not feel like a heavy task. Even a few minutes a day is enough to keep the connection alive. This connection is more valuable than knowing many rules. Rules can come later, when the brain already feels familiar with English, when listening feels comfortable. At that point, rules make more sense. They explain what the brain already knows. But for beginners, listening daily builds the foundation. It prepares the mind. It prepares the ear. Without this foundation, rules feel empty and difficult. Listening daily is simple. It is gentle, and it works quietly. For beginners, this quiet work is exactly what is needed. Many beginners listen to English in a tense way. They try to catch every word. They try to translate in their head. They try to understand everything at the same time. This effort makes listening feel heavy. Heavy listening creates stress. Stress blocks learning. Relaxed listening works differently. Relaxed listening means you do not try to control the process. You allow English to flow without stopping it. You listen without asking the brain to perform. One important part of relaxed listening is letting words pass. Some words are familiar, some words are not. You do not stop for unknown words. You do not replay every sentence. You stay with the sound. This teaches the brain something important. It teaches the brain that it does not need to panic. It teaches the brain that understanding can come later. Another part of relaxed listening is choosing easy content. Content that feels slow. Content that feels friendly. When listening feels too difficult, tension appears. Tension tells the brain to protect itself. Protection blocks learning. Easy listening keeps the brain open. Relaxed listening also means listening for general meaning, not details. You listen for the situation. You listen for the feeling. You listen for the topic. You do not need to know every word to understand the situation. Your brain is good at guessing meaning from context. Trust this ability. You can also relax by changing your goal. The goal is not to understand everything. The goal is to stay calm while listening. Calm listening is successful listening. Another helpful idea is listening while doing simple activities: walking, cleaning, resting. When your body is relaxed, your mind follows. Relaxed listening does not feel impressive, but it builds strong foundations. Over time, the brain becomes more comfortable with English. Comfort reduces effort. Reduced effort makes listening easier. You do not need to push. You do not need to prove anything. For beginners, relaxed listening is enough. It prepares the brain gently. And gentle preparation leads to real progress. Listening naturally leads to speaking, even when you are not trying to speak. Many beginners worry because they are not speaking yet. They feel behind. They feel silent. They think something is wrong. But silence at the beginning is normal. When you listen, the brain is building internal language. It is learning how sentences sound. It is learning how ideas are expressed. This internal language must come first. Speaking is not created by forcing words out. Speaking appears when the brain feels ready, and readiness comes from listening. Each time you listen, the brain stores patterns. These patterns stay quiet for a long time. You do not feel them working, but they are there. Over time, something changes. You hear a sentence and feel it inside. You recognize the structure. You feel how it should sound. This feeling is the beginning of speaking. When you later try to speak, you are not starting from zero. You are using patterns you already know. That is why speaking feels more natural after a lot of listening. Listening also reduces fear. Fear blocks speaking more than lack of knowledge. When fear reduces, words come out more easily. Many people think speaking practice creates speaking ability, but for beginners, listening creates speaking readiness. Listening teaches rhythm. Listening teaches natural pauses. Listening teaches how ideas flow. These elements are hard to learn from rules. They are learned through exposure. When you listen enough, speaking begins to appear in small ways. You repeat a phrase without thinking. You answer with a short sentence. You react automatically. These moments are signs. They show that listening is working. Speaking does not need to be rushed. If you push too early, tension appears. Tension blocks natural speech. When you allow listening to lead, speaking follows gently, not suddenly, not perfectly, but steadily. For beginners, this order matters. Listening first, speaking later. Trusting this order makes learning calmer, and calm learning leads to real ability. Trusting listening as a beginner requires patience and understanding. Many beginners feel unsure when they only listen. They worry they are not active enough. They worry they are falling behind. These worries are normal, but they are not helpful. Listening is not waiting. Listening is preparation. When you listen regularly, the brain is working quietly. It is adjusting to sounds. It is learning how English feels. This work takes time. Progress at this stage does not feel dramatic. You may not notice clear changes day by day. This does not mean listening is not working. Staying patient means accepting this quiet phase. You allow English to enter your life without pressure. You stop demanding fast results. Patience protects motivation. When you are patient, you do not feel disappointed easily. You are less likely to quit. Trust also means choosing simple listening. You do not need difficult content. You do not need long sessions. Short and easy listening is enough. It keeps English present without creating stress. Another part of trust is letting go of comparison. Some people speak earlier. Some people speak later. This difference is normal. Your job as a beginner is not to perform. Your job is to stay connected. Listening helps you stay connected even on tired days. It fits into daily life. It does not demand much energy. Over time, listening changes how English feels inside you. It feels less foreign. It feels less threatening. This emotional change is important. It prepares you for speaking later. When speaking begins, it will feel more natural, not because you forced it, but because listening did the work first. Trusting listening is trusting the process. It means believing that small, quiet actions are enough. For beginners, listening is not a shortcut. It is the path. And staying patient on this path makes everything easier later. You've reached the end of today's episode. Before you leave, I want you to remember one simple thing. You did something good for yourself today. You listened. You stayed. You didn't give up. And that matters. Learning English is not about being fast. It is not about being perfect. It is about showing up again and again. Some days will feel easy. Some days will feel hard. Both are normal. Progress does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes you don't notice it at all. But learning is still happening. Every minute you listen, your ears are learning new sounds. Your mind is learning new patterns. Your confidence is growing, even if you cannot see it yet. You don't need to push yourself. You don't need to compare yourself to others. You are on your own path, and your pace is enough. Let English be part of your daily life. Listen while you rest. Listen while you work. Listen while you live your normal day. If this episode helped you feel calmer, more focused, or more motivated, then your time here was well spent. Come back when you can. Come back when you need a quiet space to learn. My name is Linda, and this is Podcast for English. Thank you for learning with me. Until next time, keep going and never give up. Believe in yourself, because you are stronger than you think.